I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Sabrinasalvati. All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sab's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to get things started rather quickly. We have two guests that are joining us tonight, as well as news stories. Before I bring our first guest on, I do want to show you what we are discussing tonight. It has been an interesting week in news, as they say. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, Taylor Lorenz will be here at 8:30. She is joining to discuss, of course, her new article that has gone very, very viral. And also these new allegations here from David Pakman, et cetera. We're going to get to the bottom of that influencer article. We're also going to discuss the Jeffrey Epstein victims list. They have decided that they are willing to come forward with their own list. We're going to talk about everything that's happening, that conference, Ro Khanna, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massie coming together in a coalition to support the victims. I'm going to give you the latest on that. We're also going to discuss, this is crazy, Alex Jones having another meltdown, this time with a former employee. We're going to dive into what happened here between Alex Jones and Owen. We're also going to discuss, there is a new report that has been released about October 7th, which many of us had kind of predicted this earlier on, but now there is more confirmation about what happened that day and what Israel chose not to do to prevent that. And last but not least, we have another guest joining us. His name is Michael. He is someone that fought back against the system and won. And so we love these stories, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with him. Our theme tonight is follow the money, and I think you'll see that in all of these stories. So our first guest, his name is Michael. Michael fought back against a homeowners association in Atlanta, and he won. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Michael, what is going on? Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for sharing this story, because I openly tell people it's not just my individual story, and I had so much other people reaching out, giving support when they realize I'm not just fighting on behalf of my particular HOA, but I'm also trying to advocate for change across the state, so yeah.
It is awesome. When you reached out to me and I saw this, I'm like, these are the kind of stories that people need to hear more about, because I think a lot of times people are in situations and we're like, well, what can we do? Well, you were in a situation with your HOA and you did fight back.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to explain to people how you did that. And then I want to show them part of this video clip here.
Yeah. So a few years ago during COVID, we know many people lost their positions. It was a very tough time for many people. A lot of people are still dealing from that. I was lucky enough to where I did maintain my day job at the time, but I was looking to explore other avenues and other sources of income. So I decided I would venture into real estate. One of the easier barriers, or one of the easiest entries into the field is, typically condos, a lower income area. And just because it's a lower income area, I wanted to provide quality housing. Just because it's lower income or potentially housing choice voucher, formerly known as Section 8, doesn't mean, it has to be a slumlord-like environment. So I bought a few units in South Atlanta. I could tell from the outside it was really rough. And then during the closing process, the HOA president was extremely hostile. And so I actually needed to get an attorney in order to even close on my property. I learned the reason it was such a hard time for me to close was because she wanted the properties for herself to add to her monopoly in the community because she owned 30% of the units. So I basically had to hire an attorney who was a real estate litigator to threaten them and say, look, under Georgia law, my client has the right to buy this property and you have to turn over the required closing documents, what's owed, any unpaid assessments, and you need to provide any other documents he needs to close. And so once I got an attorney, within 3 days, after fighting for 2 months, within 3 days, I got the necessary paperwork to close. That's what I knew. This was going to be a battle, but I'm not one to shy away from a battle. And at that point, I knew once I got in there, after I finished my rehab, I would have to do what's now known in the community that I'm a part of in Atlanta with real estate investment. I would have to conduct an HOA rehab. And that's exactly what I did. And so once I started rehabbing my unit, I learned from Atlanta Housing that they said the inside of your unit, beautiful, bravo. Unfortunately, we're not going to approve this for Section 8 because the exterior is horrendous, which I agreed with. And so I said to the HOA, look, can you just repair these roofs? Could we do something about the boarded up units? And it was just one runaround after the other. And I started talking to other people in the community. They said, look, nothing's going to change. Or, hey, this lady is corrupt to the T. All of them are. Like, take your losses and leave. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to take those losses. And so I did my due diligence, went through my bylaws, the covenants. This is stuff people need to read. I glanced at it during the closing, which I have to find out on my own, by the way. And I read it and I was like, you know what? There's a lot of power as an owner that you have in here. You don't have to wait for something to happen to you to exercise your right. Like, these are your rights. And so I have the right as a unit owner to have the roof repaired because the HOA is responsible for the exterior. So she refused to fix the community. She refused to hand over financial documents, which was a huge red flag. So no budget. And then no elections, because I was an owner there. I'm like, hey, when are we having a meeting? Hey, we're having an annual meeting April. April came and went, no meeting. And then when I finished my unit, I started pushing and pushing harder, and she snapped. And I bought my unit in March 2021. In January 2023, January 18th, and I remember that day because she threatened my life. She threatened my family. I stayed up all night creating a website exposing every crime. I looked at my bylaws again. I looked at my governing documents. And I can also look at Georgia state law. They were violating dozens of laws, demanding HOA in cash, refusing to have an annual meeting, refusing to provide board minutes, which is Georgia law and in our bylaws. Like I said, refusing to make the necessary fixes. So I said, enough is enough. I started preparing legal documents, and the law firm I ultimately went with basically cut and paste what I had on my website. And we ended up going under what's known as a derivative action. If you don't know what that is, a derivative action is similar to a class action lawsuit, but basically anyone could do this in an HOA or any organization really, but it's basically a lawsuit saying, hey, I'm part of this organization. Will you, the court, look at what this organization is doing and say, hey, we need to make a change because the organization is destroying itself. So in a derivative action, you need 5% of the members to proceed with whatever action you're attempting to change. I think I ended up having between 30 to 40% of all of the owners sign on as a show of force. I needed 5%, but I wanted to show that this was such an issue in this community. And so they didn't respond to anything. They said they were going to hand over documents, set up a meeting, bailed on us. They set up a second meeting, bailed on us. They didn't respond to the lawsuits. And then ultimately, I personally sent them, because we tried to service them. They were using an abandoned warehouse in a different county as the HOA headquarters, believe it or not. And so we used private process servers, the sheriff in DeKalb County to serve them, even though we're in Fulton County, Georgia. And so we had them served. They showed up in court and tried to get the lawsuit dismissed, claiming they weren't served. But the judge saw through their scandalous ways, and what she did was allow us to do what's known as a service through publication, basically meaning you're using an abandoned address. The sheriff confirmed it. We're publishing the lawsuit in the paper. And they clearly knew about the lawsuit because Atlanta code enforcement cited the HOA for busted sewage, the falling apart roof, and the leaks. And in that litigation with code enforcement, the HOA president, Claire Cherry, and her attorney told the court, hey, could you please postpone all of this? There's another lawsuit in Fulton County Superior Court. But at the same time, they're claiming to Superior Court, they didn't know about the lawsuit. So the judge saw through that. She granted the default motion in my favor, allowing me to be the HOA president because I was actually voted in during a special meeting, which they didn't acknowledge. And so June 10th, she signed that default order. They filed a motion to set aside the judgment, which is one step below an appeal. And she, 2 weeks ago on August 15th, denied their motion to set aside. And so I could continue on to effectively run the HOA and make the necessary changes so, people don't have their rights violated. So that's the story in a nutshell. There's, a lot of other nuances, but yeah.
Yeah, I think more people need to hear about this because we were just talking. I was talking with my comrade JB earlier about some of the things that happened with homeowners association and just some of the things that people go through. Your story was actually on the local news. I want to show people part of this. You guys got to see this. It says how one man's $30,000 battle exposed Georgia's broken HOA system.
There's no reason this should have been left like this for years.
It is a flurry of activity Michael Shepard has waited too long to witness. A team of tow trucks takes away abandoned cars, some with bullet holes.
Somebody was in there, I'm pretty sure. Would not have been pretty.
Leaking roofs are getting fixed, and the trash bins that are themselves trash are getting removed.
Clearly, they're rusted out.
But before you celebrate the story of how a good guy wins,
Back up.
listen to the battle.
Do not touch me.
I didn't touch you.
Do not.
For 2 years.
Is that her?
That is her. She was actually arrested on this day for assaulting me because I called the media. So she was livid, and actually she was arrested by APD. And ultimately, they let her plead down to like disorderly conduct, and she had to do community service or something like that. But she's very deranged.
Wow.
We have walked the roads in Peyton Place as property owners pointed out the problems.
I'm Rebecca Lindstrom with 11 Alive. I was trying to reach you.
And we've confronted the HOA president about the board's lack of solutions. Frustrated, Shepard says he put code enforcement on speed dial.
Code enforcement agents did start taking more reports on a lot of the issues.
Shepard says he went to more than 20 hearings between city magistrate and Fulton Superior Court. We also attended, watching as efforts to hold the HOA accountable kept getting delayed. The city solicitor wouldn't talk with us about the challenges, but state lawmakers did have something to say.
I am thankful for people like him that stood up, spoke up, and said enough is enough.
Several Democrats in the House and Senate have tried for years to pass HOA reforms to help homeowners like Shepard.
You can get a hearing, but what is a hearing without a vote? We have to come down to this Capitol, talk to the legislators about why we can't get a vote and get some action taken.
Let's be real. You can't get much passed in Georgia without Republicans on board, since they do control the House and Senate.
Does that make a difference?
Absolutely. I mean, that's yes. I mean, I'm not gonna lie about that.
Senator Matt Brass admits the issue wasn't on his radar until about a year ago when a homeowner in his district begged for help.
When I realized it was a problem in my backyard, I wanted to fix it.
Senator Brass has since introduced a bill to create an administrative hearing process so homeowners can hold their HOA accountable.
there's going to be a panel that decides who's right and who's wrong.
So I think this is really important because, again, it just goes to show you how sometimes politicians don't pay attention to something unless it happens in their community, right? But this part right here at the very beginning, I think it switched on me. But
I
at
said
the very
yesterday,
beginning,
I believe it.
sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. I think it went to the other video. Anyway, at the very beginning, there were cars that were there that looked like these were just abandoned cars. Why were they on the property?
So, and this happens in a lot of communities in Atlanta where people think, nobody's watching. A lot of communities, whether they be apartments or in this case, believe it or not, a condo with allegedly an active HOA, they'll see the property and say, you know what, this is a good spot to dump, a stolen vehicle, or this is a good place to open up a chop shop. So, yeah.
But shouldn't the HOA have had that removed?
100%. You just saw one of the egregious vehicles. I think that they were going to show more maybe before the video cut out. Maybe they included it. But the one that had bullet holes, that was removed. That was there for over a year. Over a year. Wow. And so we removed 4 vehicles that day. There was a couple others that I told our new partners to not tow it because I got in contact with the owners and they said they would remove the broken down vehicles. And I don't look at the HOA board as some iron fist. I'm bored or I'm taking out something on somebody. It's about working and improving the community, whether they be a renter or an owner. Because in that community, the vast majority of individuals, with the exception of one, is actually a renter. So I'm trying to work with the people there, whether they be renters and owners, to do the right thing. So
yeah. Well, I have to ask this question. It almost seems like they didn't want to fix the roof, which is a big issue. And It almost seems like similar to what I've seen here in Boston, where a lot of times they just let the property fall apart. To be honest with you, I've been in the community for, I almost said 2 or 3 years. It's actually been coming up on 5, which is crazy to think about. Felt like yesterday when I just got the keys and took off the plywood. But I think what her goal was, and I did have a rapport with her, believe it or not, after closing, when I kept pushing her to make the improvements, but she flat out told me her goal was to make millions of dollars. And you're thinking, well, how do you make millions of dollars with a rundown property? When she controls 14 properties that she got for virtually nothing, I believe ultimately the plan was to let it get run down to the point where the city ultimately condemns the property for being a nuisance property. And then there's usually a payout. Now they would pay pennies on the dollars. So for most owners, virtually every owner except for her would get pennies on the dollar. So my unit got an evaluation for once the rehab was completed, approximately 136, almost 140. When they come in eminent domain your property, in a lot of cases, you don't get what your true value is. So even if they said, hey, we're going to give $30,000, $40,000, to her, that would be a great amount of money because you take 30 to 40 and times it by all of her units, that's knocking on $1 million or so. But for everybody else, that's a horrendous deal. But she got all of her units for the equivalent of $4,000 or $5,000 each, according to the property records. So that was her goal, in my opinion. Based on the fact she told me she wanted over $1 million for all her properties, that's where I'm led to believe. And the sad part is, if she put in the effort I did into my unit, just half the effort, her properties would easily be worth in the millions, but she's not willing to put in the work. She's letting people live in slum-like conditions. Because of this experience, I actually have Legal Aid of Atlanta and Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. That's our local major hospital that services, minors, because I had to give referrals for people tenants in her unit who are breathing in mold. And the only reason I'm stating to you that right now is because I have the text messages. I have a mold expert confirming it's mold. And so, like I said, I'm just trying to do the right thing, not only for myself and other people in the community, but people who are at disadvantage. She was able to get away with this behavior for years because, one, it's a poor community, it's a poor Black community, and they don't have advocates, sadly.
And even if they want to advocate for themselves, oftentimes I was on a three-way call with tenants and legal aid just to help articulate the situation that they're in. So
That's exactly that.
yeah.
This is exactly where I was headed, because I've seen this happen. We have it happen here in Boston as well.
Yeah.
They let the buildings, they let the property fall apart, especially to the point you brought up mold. I've seen mold, like black mold in properties here. One in particular, Mildred C. Haley Apartments, which they said that they were going to put $50 million into the community. What that really meant, as people found out, is that they let it fall apart. They kicked the people out. It is a payout. You brought up something very important. That's why I say follow the money, because they're like, oh, we'll just let it fall apart. And then, the people will go somewhere else and we can build something else here or whatever. But it is a payout. And that there's a lot of people doing this, whether it's HOA, whether it's the city, whether it's landlords, like you said about eminent domain, which these things still happen today. People are still displaced, like from their homes, et cetera. So I think it's great that someone like you was willing to stand up. She seemed a little hostile there. Like the way that she approached you in the video, it was just alarming to me.
Yeah, I kept my distance. Because, I didn't know how the situation could go. When the reporter stuck the mic in her face and was like, explain this behavior, I didn't say anything. I was there in the distance. She made a beeline right towards me. Didn't say anything. She left the reporter and came right to me. It was a crazy situation.
Yeah. And it happens. And I just think people need to be really aware of this. But to your point, something you mentioned earlier, people need to know their rights. People need to know the laws. And I think a lot of times people just don't. So, kudos to you for looking into that information. So looking up the law, what the Georgia state law says. I highly recommend everybody else do this as well, because sometimes you have more rights than you realize. Now, the landlord and HOA, like, they're not going to tell you that.
No, they're just gonna let you be ignorant until you stand up for yourself. And one thing I kind of missed in this is most HOAs will actually, even if they're reluctant, they'll even give you a fake budget just to go away pests, right? One of the things I learned throughout this process is the reason she didn't give any ledgers or documents is it turns out she actually owes over $250,000 for self and unpaid HOA. So she wasn't even eligible to be on the board to begin with. So that was the main thing where even if she wanted to give something, she couldn't. And a lot of people were surprised because a lot of people are delinquent on their HOA dues. Well, one thing was she was asking for payments in cash, which no HOA in America should be doing that at all. And then there's also evidence that I have evidence presented to the court that they admitted to putting HOA money into private bank accounts. That's not according to me. That's according to their own words. And that's one of the reasons they ultimately, lost that case. And so you mentioned people need to look up the laws and know the laws, but sadly, in Georgia, I can't speak for every other state, but in Georgia, even if you know the laws, you shouldn't have to spend $30,000, $40,000. You shouldn't even have to spend $5,000 on getting the bare minimum of what's required. I've been to a number of Georgia state hearings on this, and I want to plug one event, if you don't mind, on the Georgia State Capitol that people should be aware of. But even knowing your laws, you still can end up in the same position that I did. Because I was very familiar with HOAs because I've had previous run-ins outside of an investment community. But even when you know the laws, they need to actually have HOA oversight. Like, I don't know what my future holds entirely, but one segment will definitely be housing rights and advocating for HOA oversight, because I went to a state capitol event earlier this year. I was in front of Senator Matt Brass and State Senator Donzella James. And so a Republican and a Democrat coming together to figure something out, because this is not a partisan issue. Whether you're a Republican, or Democrat, liberal, conservative, something in between, or to one extreme or another, you can run into this issue. And so I think the leaders need to realistically look at what can be done. And I'm a huge advocate of not only HOA oversight, but HOA enforcement. Because a lot of states, like in Florida, they have an ombudsman. But what's the point in having an ombudsman if you go there, they listen to you, and they go, oh, well, the decision is not binding. Guess where that leads you? The exact same position that I was in, having to spend that kind of money. And that's completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
Yeah. Ombudsmen, unfortunately, don't really do anything.
Not that they don't have the enforcement power. They need to have that power and enforcement. And I sat there and watched. Yeah, I'm on the other side now, so I'm happy to go back when the legislative session starts, because some of them probably looked at me as a disgruntled homeowner, which I'm not. I'm advocating for my rights and everyone else's rights. And it's so funny when you start advocating for your rights, you become, persona non grata or some disgruntled person when you're just saying, hey, like, I don't even want extreme change. I just want my rights. I just want my rights. But I watch these attorneys, and it's such a racket because you have these property management companies, you have these HOA attorneys, you call them for your issue. They go, oh, we can't help you. But they'll represent an HOA and continually bill them tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And I sat there and watched one attorney state, we don't need any change in Georgia. If a homeowner has an issue, they just have to refer to their bylaws, or they can have a special meeting. Well, guess what? I referred to my bylaws. I referred to my governing documents, had a special meeting, and my HOA said, kick rocks. Then what? Spend $30,000 in a lawsuit? No, we need some kind of HOA regulation that's actually binding. And if that doesn't work and one party wants to appeal, then so be it. But to have an HOA and jump straight to a $30,000, $40,000, $50 lawsuit, that's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And I have to say, just because people need to hear this, just because someone lives in Section 8 housing doesn't mean that you should allow the property to just fall apart. And that's what it seems like to me, that she just didn't care.
Yeah.
She just wanted the money.
Yeah, well, the slumlord money, and then I don't want to repeat hearsay, but she'll rent to certain elements of society that, let's just say, don't have a W-2 and doing whatever it takes. And so she'll rent to these individuals and organizations that she'll demand 3-6 months in advance because they'll be in jail or dead. Like it's a very high crime community. And so what we're doing now, I'm getting quotes for gates, security cameras. I'm working with APD because we have a number of trespassers and murders that happen. And with the exception of one individual, of all the shootings that's happened, only one individual actually lived there, whether they be a victim or an assailant. So we just have all these random elements, whether it be squatting, we're combating squatting. We ban plywood. Now, if you have a unsecured unit, you need to make sure it's boarded up in an acceptable manner that's tamper-proof. And another thing that I also started doing is, once again, there's a lot of people with substance abuse, mental illness in Atlanta. Other cities have this too. You don't necessarily even have to call the police because they may or may not respond. They have a policing alternative and diversion where you can call them 311 in the case of Atlanta, and they'll send out mental health experts who have resources, whether it be to a food bank, to a shelter, or to emergency housing, because a lot of people don't want to go in the shelter. So I'm just leading the way to try to get change. And I think I'm in the final phase of that, and hopefully I could come back, sometime next year and give you an update with where we are, because this is not over. She's off of the board, but she still has a number of units in there, and we're doing what we can legally to make sure she cannot be a slumlord anymore in Peyton Place. So, yeah.
Well, Michael, kudos to you. Kudos. When you reached out, I was so happy to hear this because, like I said, people need to know that they have rights and how you can fight back against these entities. Thank you so much. Anything else coming up that I should look forward to?
Just one thing. I actually just got this before I logged on. So in Atlanta, in the state capitol, in room 307 CLOB, it's an urban affairs committee, and they're going to be holding a session on HOA oversight. They're going to be discussing SB 106, SB 107, and SB 108. This also includes rent control legislation. So if you are in Georgia, I don't care if you're in Savannah or down in Valdosta, if you can make it to the state capitol and have your voice heard for this, like I said, this is a bipartisan issue. It doesn't matter what community you're part of. You could be in $1 Million homes, or you could be in Peyton Place. You're going to run into many of the same issues. So I would say come down to the state capitol, advocate for your rights. If you can't make it, reach out to your state senators, your state reps, and let your voice be heard.
Awesome. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time. Again, congratulations for doing the thing.
For sure.
Congratulations. And again, like I said, I always think it's great when people are out there fighting a good fight.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Michael. I thought, like, again, like I said, you guys, like, that's how you fight back. So that's somebody who saw a problem and decided, you know what, we're going to fix this. We're going to find a way around this. Like, I'm not going to just sit back and take it. And I think that's just like, bravo. It just goes to show you that these things can be done. So kudos to Michael. Ladies and gents, let's go ahead and give a shout out to patrons. Don't want to forget about you guys. Again, tonight's theme is follow the money, honey, follow the money. Oh my gosh. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories: ultimate, sabinators. We also have Sabsters. I think they're pretty cool as well. And don't forget about those Sabbies. They are also great and groovy. And we also have a group called Members. All of their names are listed here. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen on the ticker. I want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for Dana Cooper and Michael McGrorty. Michael McGrorty. Thank you. All right. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gents, and then we will keep on keeping on. Let's go ahead here. Shout out to ACAB, who just became a Sabby member. Give her a big whoop whoop. 1 second, guys. 1 second. My phone is like frozen and now it's back. Okay, sorry. That was my phone. All right. Shout out to ACAB. Janine says, sad thing is, I just knew she was going to someone not black. Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people thought that, assumed that. Yeah. When he reached out to me, I was like, wow, this lady was coming after him. Shout out to Shirley Thompson, who just became a Sabby member. Let's give her a big whoop, whoop. Shout out. James says, this is revolutionary work. All power to the people. And Shirley said, Georgia State Capitol HOA issues. That'll be Thursday for those of you who are in Georgia, September 18th, 2025. And thank you for the super chat, Roger. This is what we do here on SAB, elevate the no names. Yes, Michael reached out to me and I was like, people need to hear this story. Because I know sometimes, like, when you guys hear the news, like, a lot of times it's like, man, there's just all these powerful people or powerful entities. Like, how do we fight back? You know, what can we do? And so when I got the email from Michael, I was like, whoa, people need to hear about this. People need to know what can be done. So Michael had a situation and he saw that, like, no, this is not cool what they're doing. Another thing that he did, if you guys paid attention, notice what he did. He did his research. He looked up the laws. What are the laws in this state? What are the laws around HOAs? What are they supposed to do? And what are they not doing? So that's another thing. Now, I know everyone doesn't always have time to do that, but there's somebody, you know, hopefully somebody near you or close to you that can help you out. That's another thing. Sometimes don't be afraid to ask people for help, right? Like if you're busy, let's say you got kids, you're working a lot, and you just don't have time to sit down and do the research. Don't be afraid to ask other people for help. You might be surprised how many people will be willing to help you. Okay. Shout out to JJ4. Sabby, I've been missing your live shows. Glad to be on tonight. What's up, JJ? And welcome. Welcome. Hey. Let's see. Did I click on the wrong thing here? Oh, here it is. Eric said we need to leverage our numbers. The 99%, it is the only way. Yeah. Michael, hopefully Sunday. Sabby, will you cover the Indonesia protest? Hopefully on Sunday. I know it's so much. It's so much news this week. Venezuela, Indonesia. Someone told me there were protests in Puerto Rico. I have to look into that as well. Okay. And I already spoke to Amanda. Plainsight says, Sabby, did you see what Amanda Seales said about you on Majority Report the day after her interview with her? She kind of trashed you for not having moderators in the chat. I have moderators in the chat, and I already spoke to Amanda about this, so I'm not sure why you're bringing this up here. I'm just really not. I think, Eric and Corey were trying to get them as best as they could. Thank you, Andrew. I work for attorneys who work for HOAs. If possible, never live in an HOA. Yeah, this is a tricky thing too, because like JB and I were talking about this earlier. I know for me, when I was doing the home, going through the home buying process, that was something I just did not want to be a part of. I didn't want an HOA. And there's reasons around it. Like sometimes like HOAs have like rules like that you wouldn't think would be there because you're not renting anymore. There's that. Then there's also the fee. Like you do pay into an HOA. And that's another thing when you look at Michael's story, it's like people paying into something and the service is not being provided. It's a ripoff, So that's just something. But yeah, I tried my best to avoid that. Okay. All right. Taylor said she'll be here in just a second. Let's go ahead and make that announcement. Eric, can we go to the workshop, the mutual aid workshop? Can we pull that up really quick? Thanks. All right, guys, just a reminder, because I don't want to forget, this Saturday is the mutual aid workshop. It's virtual, so we're using Zoom for it. If you want to attend, you have to sign up for my newsletter because that's where the information is sent. So my newsletter is my Substack, and you can find the link to that in the description part of my videos. This Saturday, September 6th, it's at 11 a.m. So this is the newsletter that went out yesterday. I'll send another one tomorrow, right? Because I know some of you are just now seeing it, but that'll be this Saturday at 11 a.m. and it is virtual. And yeah, so look for that again tomorrow, guys. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to sign up, and it'll be coming your way. Okay, all righty. Taylor is here. Eric, can we bring back up the thank you very much? All right, ladies and gents, again, tonight's theme is Follow the Money, and we are bringing on our next guest. She is a journalist. Her name is Taylor Lorenz, and her most recent article here has gone viral. A number of us have talked about it, these influencers taking dark money. Let's go ahead and bring her in. Taylor, welcome.
Hi, sorry for the delay. I lost the link. Anyway, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I know how it happens. It happens. I know you've been very busy. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are reaching out to you about this article. I think first and foremost, I think people want to know, like, how did this all come about? Like, were you looking into the organization Chorus? Did you just receive a tip? How did this all come about in the beginning?
Yeah, I've reported on Chorus previously. So I wrote a story months ago back in the spring when they were basically they had taken a bunch of content creators' images off their social media pages and included them in like fundraising and marketing decks to raise millions of dollars. And they put some of them even on the website beneath a donate button. And so those creators were obviously like, what the hell? Like, I'm not affiliated with this organization. Why are they using me to raise money? Like, I don't have anything to do with them. So I wrote about that. And then I just sort of continued to follow it. This is like, there's been this big effort in the Democratic Party to kind of like develop a left Joe Rogan or whatever, like build this like sort of content creator ecosystem for the sort of centrist mainstream Dems. And Chorus is sort of first out the gate. So I've been covering them for a while.
Interesting. Okay. So I guess what we all want to kind of understand, these creators, they were a part of this program that was called Chorus.
So Chorus is public. Like Chorus has always been a public thing. And I think they're doing this to intentionally confuse people. But the 1630 fund, like funding scheme, like the paid program is not public. But the Chorus like incubator program thing was public, but the paid scheme that I reported on is not public. The company Chorus is public.
Right. And that's what I wanted to get to because, so Brian, let's start with Brian Tyler Cohen. Brian has come forward with this video, and Brian, there's one part here that I want to play from him.
There's the implication in the article that this is some arm of the DNC or the Democratic Party. We have literally nothing to do with the DNC. I spend 0 minutes of my day thinking about the DNC. The creators do not toe any party line. How could we? There isn't a party line. Creators are absolutely allowed to speak out against the Democrats, and in fact, plenty do. And frankly, Chorus creators should and do criticize Democrats when they suck. And quite often, they do suck. I've seen posts saying that this is APAC funded, which couldn't be further from the truth. I'd venture to guess that most Chorus creators, myself included on both YouTube and Substack, have spoken out against the atrocities in Gaza. Lorenz says that the 1630 Fund is, quote, a powerful liberal dark money group. 1630 Fund is our fiscal sponsor. One of the largest documented donors to 1630 Fund is the same person funding Meteor's Reporters in Residence program, which Taylor Lorenz herself is a part of.
Stop?
And guess what her monthly stipend is?
Can we just, we're just listening to complete misrepresentations and lies, and I just don't know how productive this is going to be. I mean, there's 5 things that he said right there that are just bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm so tired of debunking this.
Yeah. I think this is where some people are a little bit confused. So he is saying that the 1630 Fund, he's saying that.
Well, first of all, let's back up. Let's back up to many of the false things that he just said there. Number one, the idea that Chorus he doesn't think anything about the Democrats all day is an absurd implication. If you go back and read the New York Times launch, the big splashy profile that they got in the New York Times when they launched, Brian Tyler Cohen literally said this about launching Chorus, quote, we have an obligation to do it, to launch Chorus, because the Democratic Party has been so slow in adapting to the media environment we're in right now. And this whole thing has been about, if you look at their decks, it's all about how the Democrats have a messaging problem and we are here to solve it. So the idea that it's I don't know what else it is for, if that money is not for promoting Democrats, and the Democratic Party and messaging writ large, then what's the point of the program? It's just giving money to content creators for no reason. It's just very absurd. Also, it's all pro-Democrat establishment creators in this program, as far as I've seen. So that is all very silly. Now, what he's trying to do is he's trying to obscure the fact that they took money from a dark money group. And I have never taken money from a dark money group, period, ever. Never. And I never would. I don't believe in that. They did. The 1630 Fund is something that I have never taken money from. And there's even receipts showing that I have no connection to it. The nonprofit organization, the nonprofit organization, the non-political, nonpartisan investigative journalism fellowship that I'm in, that has some of the best investigative reporters in the country in this fellowship, they had to waste their time coming out and giving a statement to the public, issuing a press release, because all these stupid YouTubers making their conspiratorial claims saying, we have never received money from the 1630 Fund. And obviously we're not a dark money group. It's not I'm not involved in a political influence scheme. I can't believe I have to explain the difference between a non-political, non-partisan investigative journalism fellowship and a partisan political and public journalism fellowship and a secretive, non-public political influence scheme that is funded by a dark money organization. These are apples and oranges. So he's doing this thing where he says a lot of buzzwords. None of them are related. You know what I mean?
But he also went on to say that you also received $8,000 a month because of Pierre Ottmeyer.
No, I mean, oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm just not, I don't think I just don't even know what to say at this point anymore. I am part of Pierre Omidyar is the guy, he funds The Intercept. Have you heard of The Intercept?
Yeah.
Okay. So Pierre Omidyar is a billionaire that funds a lot of journalistic. He also funds Honolulu Civil Beat, which is an investigative journalism outlet in Honolulu, right? He also funds a non-partisan, non-political journalism fellowship that runs for a couple months that I'm part of. That is not dark. Pierre Omidyar is not funding Chorus. Pierre Omidyar has never funded Chorus. Pierre Omidyar has nothing to do with Chorus, ever. No money that he has ever given at the 1630 Fund ever went to Chorus. So there's zero connection here in any capacity. 1630 Fund funds Chorus. Who knows where the 1630 Fund is getting money from? We don't know. There's no evidence that Pierre Omidyar has given 1630 Fund money in any time in recent history, other than years and years ago, personally. But recently, he's never given money, as far as we know. So we don't know who funds these dark money groups. But if this is what we're going to do, I just can't. This is a huge waste of time. Like, I'm just.
Well,
Like-
I was just asking to give you a chance to respond to that because
But once you're responding to these conspiracy theories like this, it validates them. And that's what's really frustrating to me, is rather than focus on the facts of my reporting, which are not disputed, there are no corrections on my story. Zero. They are trying to intentionally confuse people who don't know anything about dark money and don't know anything by making these ridiculous claims about an investigative journalism fellowship that has nothing to do with politics. Zero.
That's the point I was going to get to, is the dark money. It seemed like to me in these responses from Brian and some of the other creators, they never debunked the article.
No.
They never, it seemed like they were trying to, but they didn't go to that extent. They never debunked what was said in the article. And that is something I think that is very telling. And I think even for me, what I said is that, look, however you choose to be as a media person is totally up to you. But I think it is disingenuous when you tell your audience that you're independent, which David Pakman says it right on his channel, independent. When you tell them that you're independent and you don't disclose with your audience, with your viewers, that you are taking dark money. Like, I think that's really important. And I'm hearing all these excuses come from, well, not all of them, but some of these creators, instead of like just answering the question. And I want to show people, even on the website, on the Chorus website, it talks about the benefits, etc. When it says who funds, this could be anything, because it says Chorus is a 501c4 nonprofit organization with grassroots support from over 5,000 individuals since launching in December of 2024. But to the point, I think that you're making,
it doesn't say
Taylor,
1630. Their fund, the
right.
1630 fund, is the dark money fund behind that is Chorus is described in the contracts that we have as a project of the 1630 fund. I cannot reiterate this enough. I have zero financial ties or any ties to the 1630 fund. If I had any financial ties to the 1630 fund, that would have had to be disclosed in the Wired article. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to confuse people and lead them down this weird conspiracy rabbit hole where it's like, well, red is blue and blue is green, and that's connected to this. And that means Taylor, her journalism fellowship, is actually basically the same as a political dark money scheme. Craziness. Like, I don't even know what to say other than, like, it's so absurd. And I'm sorry to like come out the gate so frustrated. It's just that, like, I feel so horrified by the damage that they've done to journalism and to Wired and to this phenomenal investigative journalism fellowship that supports journalism that holds power to account. I think that it is just appalling. And so it's just like, I'm not mad at you. I'm like mad at like the fact that they continue to do this.
And I just want to point out to people, this isn't the first time, because it was earlier. And I believe I did cover the story, but it was reported months ago that it was reported by Semaphore that Brian Tyler Cohen was involved in launching this organization at that time called Good Influence, originally known as At Advocacy, a digital consulting firm, which says it creates meaningful impact causes through campaigns. It goes on to say that former Vice President Kamala Harris has been one of the firm's top clients at that point in time. And that was done through, you could check this out through the search of the FEC data. It showed that Kamala Harris campaign spent more than $600,000 on digital consulting and licensing fees from Good Influence, yada, yada. It goes on to say that the people who were involved with this, of course, Brian Tyler Cohen, David Pakman, Luke Beasley, Lindy Lee, and it even goes on to mention Too Raw, Too Real, who a lot of us learned about on X or TikTok, who is very, very, very vulgar towards women. That was something I noticed with him. Said some really nasty things about Rashida Tlaib. He came after me but he couldn't debunk, the article of yours that I shared. So what it goes to show you is that this is a pattern. And it's not even, and my whole thing is like, you have to just tell people the truth. Like, just tell them, but don't say you're independent.
I think that's the crux of the issue here. And it's such a good point. And also, I'm so sorry that he went after you, because he is so misogynistic and hateful. That man is like terrible. you know, this is something that should be public. And I think it's so concerning to me that even now, after this story has come up, they're still trying to obfuscate all of these facts. They're still trying to mislead people about what dark money is. One of these creators got on the internet and was literally trying to argue not only again that my investigative journalism fellowship is dark money. Of course it's not. It has not, like, dark money actually has a meaning. She even tried to claim that the NAACP is like a secret dark money organization. That is absurd, right? Like, this is a credible civil rights organization that has decades of history, that is not a secretive political dark money group running influence schemes. Like, it's just very silly. And I think they're doing all of this to distract from the facts of the story, which have not been disputed. Like, they just get online and they're like, the story was debunked. Where? By who? Certainly not by any of you, because you have provided zero counter evidence to the piece. And if they had just disclosed all of this stuff when it came out, I think it actually would have taken the wind out of the story a lot. You know, if they had come out and said, I actually thought that they would come out before my story even went up, and just say like, hey, we're going to announce this new funding program. You know, yes, we're taking dark money, but we think it's, we think that it should be done right now because the Democrats are really struggling. But we're getting paid and we want you to know. Even today, we don't know the full list of content creators that are getting paid as part of this program.
That was another thing I was going to ask you, because there's other creators, but all of the names weren't mentioned. So you still don't know the full list.
I was able to confirm a couple dozen, but apparently they've told creators in the program that there are 90 influencers who were set to take part. And that is 90. So, there's definitely a couple dozen, several dozen that we have not confirmed. And if those creators have not come out, like the Too Raw, Too Real guy and some of these other people that are like, yeah, I'm taking dark money, James Crocker, and I'm proud of it. We don't know. We don't know who the rest of them are. And that's really terrible, because they are probably presenting themselves as journalists or news information sources online, and people don't realize that they're getting this tens of thousands of dollars of funding and messaging meetings and all this stuff behind the scenes.
It's very interesting. I move on to the David Pakman part. For those who have not seen this, and I think most of you on the show have not, David Pakman has taken this to a whole different level, and this is very concerning, I think, for anybody in any type of media. He has taken it to this length. Everyone listen to this.
Well, I hate to start a show like this, but I do have to talk today about a defamation lawsuit. After Wired published a piece last week that made a number of untrue allegations and implications about me and other creators, claiming I'm taking money in exchange for letting someone dictate the content of this show or restrict what I'm talking about, and many other claims and implications. A whole bunch of you wrote to me and said, David, are you going to sue for defamation? Suing for defamation and winning is really the way to take control back and to prove that you didn't do the things you're accused of. Now, it's a fair question, and I want to talk about that today. I didn't even plan on mentioning this entire fiasco again, but it really has taken on a life of its own. Over the last few days, I've consulted with some of the top defamation attorneys in the country, lawyers who have won some of the largest verdicts, I think, in U.S. history. And I've been advised this could take 6 figures in legal fees just to get to the end without even a guarantee of getting the money back, right? I am not litigious by nature. I think all of you know that. I've never sued anybody. It would be stressful. It would be time consuming.
So long story short, David Pakman put out this video that he's considering litigation. He's considering filing a defamation suit. And that to me, I think anybody who's in media, whether it's print journalism, whether it's a YouTube show, etc., that to me is very concerning, because what this could do is basically create some type of some type of a precedent towards people that are in media, that if you say something or print something about someone that they don't like, which again, he hasn't debunked this either, that they don't like or they don't want out there, and then they threaten to sue you.
Well, it's even worse. I've been sued multiple times for defamation. And of course, the lawsuits are always thrown out or they lose. But we know that billionaires and millionaires fund these lawsuits against journalists, knowing that they're going to lose in order to discredit them. And throughout the whole lawsuit, which again, they know they're going to lose because they've never disproven a word of the story, they will go on a media tour talking about how this journalist is a liar and attacking me. It's basically a smear campaign. And David Enrich at the New York Times has a phenomenal book called Murder the Truth, which is all about kind of dismantling a free press, which is something that the far right and Trump world have always done. But now we're seeing Democrats employ these same tactics. And I think that's really scary. I am a freelance journalist, so I don't have the same protections as a staff writer. Often they sue you personally. They try to sort of get around suing, Wired specifically because of the article. So they'll try to like get around it by suing you personally. And the goal is to destroy your lives. Like this other woman, one of the main leaders of the smear campaign, who was mentioned further on down in the article, who herself is a lawyer, has also been making threats and on threads and saying, really scary things and just lying about me in the most egregious way. And so it's scary because these people want to destroy my life. And as somebody that challenges power, I think that not only am I concerned for myself, but I'm concerned for any journalist who wants to speak out and cover the Democratic establishment critically.
Well, I think I'm curious about this too. David Pakman has millions of subscribers. Like none of these people, David Pakman has millions of subscribers. Brian Tyler Cohen has millions of subscribers. David Pakman makes a lot of money.
Millions.
And in my mind, I'm just like, why did you need this $8,000, this extra $8,000 a month? Why do you think it?
I think it's about access. Like if you look at these people, I mean, like Brian Tyler Cohen had some like lawmaker write like the foreword to his book, like these are people that are invited to these White House affairs, like under the Democrat, under Biden, right? They're taking selfies with Democratic lawmaker leaders. And I think that they're fundamentally kind of interested in access and interested in power. And a lot of people will do a lot of things to get adjacency to power, and they'll participate or they'll do these programs or they'll sort of join up things that you're right. It's not that much money compared to what they're making. It's a lot of money for a freelance journalist, but like for a big time YouTuber, like it's a drop in the bucket. But I think it's about adjacency to power and adjacency and access to these establishment leaders.
Interesting. It's really, and I want people to understand this too. When I was talking about following the money, David Pakman has like a lot of sponsorships too. It's not even just this $8,000 a month. He has a lot of sponsorships. In fact, one of them reached out, and this isn't the only one, but I wanted to show you guys this to prove a point because they mention him. I don't know if I can make this bigger. It's big, you guys. They mention his name as if I guess that would have swayed me in one way or the other. But they basically, long story short, they said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm on the team at Thought Leaders, a YouTube sponsorship agency and platform. Yada, yada, yada. For background, Chapter is an unbiased Medicare advisor. As a result of their approach, they're now the most highly valued Medicare advisor." And look at who they mention. Chapter partners with trusted creators like Dave Ramsey, David Pakman, and Hugh Hewitt on educational content, yada, yada, yada. Would you be available for a brief call? So this is one of those sponsorship emails.
Wow.
And this is what I was telling my viewers. I get them every week. Sometimes it's like all these different like companies, but they mentioned his name. And this isn't the first time I've received one that said, David Pakman is one of our such and such. So, I think you're right about having that access to power because, like I said, he doesn't need the money. And it seems like he wants to be a part of that circle.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people do a lot of things to maintain access and they won't criticize people. Like, especially when we look at the Democrats and how they respond to criticism. They, according to my reporting, have really shut content creators who do criticize the Democratic establishment out. Kamala Harris revoked the credentials of Hassan Piker, quite literally, right? That her campaign revoked Hassan Piker's credentials on stream. They revoked the credentials of multiple content creators who attended the DNC for speaking out against the administration or criticizing Gaza. They gave them credentials the first day, and then they took away their credentials for the second and third days if they didn't like what they had to say. And so we also know that under Biden at the White House, they prevented a lot of content creators who had previously helped get Biden elected, these Gen Z for Change kids, from being invited to White House events. Suddenly they felt like they were blacklisted, and they were like, wait, why am I not getting invited anymore? It's just because I lightly criticized the administration. So I think this is a huge problem with the Democrats. I think they want this like top-down media environment where they're not criticized and their policies are not criticized, and they just sort of have these mouthpieces online. And I think that's a really losing strategy.
I think so too. And there's more that has happened since then for people who are not aware. Now there's this whole thing about I just got to show this to people. There's this whole thing about him not knowing how to pronounce APAC, which is also very easily debunked.
Some creators in the first 48 hours took the Wired story and expanded it with even more outrageous claims, suggesting that it's APAC or IPAC. I don't even know how it's pronounced. IPAC, that is funding this show or other creators. Of course, not true. That the DNC is involved, not true.
So now he's pretending as though he doesn't know how to pronounce APAC. And of course, Nathan Robinson came in and said, there's literally a video of you saying APAC correctly, David Pakman. Why are you playing dumb and pretending you have no idea how this is pronounced? And here he is here.
APAC, support APAC. APAC, from APAC. APAC, support APAC.
I just don't like it's so I feel like he has gone above and beyond, and it's making him look worse because like in my opinion, I'm like, I feel like he has started to crash out. There was something else that Nathan Robinson mentioned. I don't know if everybody saw this as well. He said that David Pakman's brother, who was his producer, was a regional director for the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Now that's his brother, that's not him, but the fact that David's pretending he doesn't know like what these organizations are and how they're pronounced is obviously not true. But the last part about this is that now this is where I feel like the crash out has begun. Because of that article, he is now saying that the entire problem is the left.
Have not changed in terms of my views. What has changed, as I pointed out yesterday, is I no longer believe we are all part of the same movement. There's the governance-focused, big tent, win elections and pass laws left. That's where I am. And then there's this purity test left. The ones who don't really care if we lose and sometimes seem to like it so they can say, I told you so, as long as they feel morally untainted. They treat compromise as corruption. They think we need a better media ecosystem must mean install CIA-approved thought leaders or something like that. So maybe we were never really part of the same movement. If I've been red-pilled about anything, maybe it's that. We overlapped when convenient, and that was it. But I'm not getting red-pilled. I'm done pretending that everyone with a left-wing label is on the same page. You can stand for progress in a lot of different ways. You can want change without torching everyone who's only 98% on your side. But no, I am not having a political awakening. I am not the next Dave Rubin. None of that is happening.
This is how far he has taken it.
It's so crazy to me. I'm so shocked by their reaction because I'll tell you, like when I've worked on the story for a couple months, we have so much, like I said, we have like Zoom call, or I said this in the story, we have like Zoom call recordings, text message recordings, leaked internal emails, multiple copies of the contract. Like we have so much reporting material that this story is based on. They have not been able to disprove a single claim in this story, not one claim in the story. If this story was wrong and it was defamatory and all this stuff, they could reach out to Wired and disprove the claims. Now they have reached out, but they haven't disproven a single claim. And they could post the contract online if they feel like I grossly misrepresented this contract that they shared. Share it online. See what it says. The very little bits that some of them have shared actually confirm our reporting. So I think it's just like very telling that like instead of just admitting like, guys, listen, I did take dark money. Here's why. Here's my thinking. I wish it didn't come out this way. I wanted to disclose it. Here's why I didn't disclose it. Whatever. I think it would have just like moved on. But they're on week 2 of a crash out. after a 3-day weekend, going ballistic, making all these conspiracy theories about me and my like silly little like not silly but like investigative journalism program or whatever. You know what I mean? Like and calling me a secret MAGA Republican, just all these absurd things. And saying they left the left as if like it's all just very it's very like I learned the phrase I don't know a little while ago of like hit dogs hollering, and I think of it so often now when I see stuff like this where I'm like, it's made me question it's made me want to look into the group even more. And I think other journalists are feeling the same way because we're like, what are you guys hiding? Like what clearly we hit a nerve. And it makes us wonder what else we could find with some digging.
And I think the idea too is one of the things that Brian Tyler Cohen said is that the right, well, actually both of them said this, Brian and David, is that the right has a lot of money. We all know this. We've been aware of this for years, but I think again the problem is the fact that you didn't disclose it.
Yes.
And I'm many of us are sitting back and we're looking like, you have all these patrons, you're making a lot like on YouTube and in other places as well. David Pakman at one point had a Roku channel, from what I remember. And it's just like, then you're getting this extra money on the side and you're not disclosing it with people. And I think the initial response that it seemed like came from most of them is that, well, we need to grow the left and we need to reach more people. I don't think anybody was saying people can't get paid for their work. It's the fact that you didn't disclose it and you're giving people the impression that you're independent. And I think there needs to be a bigger conversation about what is exactly independent, because I've been talking about this for a while that like, I don't know, man. I don't know if people who's really independent anymore, but like, obviously if you're taking dark money, you're not independent, that you are backed by some other force. And that does explain how you get to be in the room with some of these people. David Pakman was at the White House.
Yep. Absolutely. I think it's just like the very least that we should require. And it makes me wonder, what other dark money are these people taking? You know, these content creators, especially, they're so anti-transparency that it raises a lot of questions, I think, about their own ethical compass and moral compass and the trust or lack of trust, rather, that they have with their audience. They don't care about building trust through transparency. It also really bothers me that they're doing this thing that, especially on Instagram Threads, which is like the worst place in the world, but like where they're like, well, this is to support, marginalized creators or something. Please be for real. Look at the demographics of this program. Okay, this is a program run by white men that is overwhelmingly white, that is overwhelmingly like, it's these establishment people that often with huge resources. Like if it was a program for marginalized creators to take dark money, which is like silly, why not release the roster of the program? That's something that they won't do. They won't release that full roster because they know that it won't comport rather with these narratives they're pushing online. And so they sent the too raw, too real guy and this other lady, just some of these other people out to kind of be these attack figures and say all this stuff and say, oh, actually, Taylor just doesn't want, Black creators to be paid or something, as if that's the issue. I actually think that a more transparent program would be far more equitable. I heard from a lot of independent creators, marginalized creators of various identities that were like, I didn't even know about this program. I actually might have applied because I'm barely struggling. Like I'm barely making it by, but I'm not in these group chats of these Democrat elite, people. So I didn't even get access to even apply for the program. So transparency, if you actually want equity, which we all do, then you should have a transparent program and you should be evaluating people on transparent, methods. Like you should be open about like, hey, here's what we're looking for in these types of creators. Here's what it would be, and make it all open and public.
And people immediately started smearing you as MAGA the moment this article came out, which I was like, here it comes.
I don't know if they've ever done that to you, but like, it's so crazy to me because in Brian Tyler Cohen, and I'm so sorry, I got so triggered like when you first started playing this Brian Tyler Cohen video, like when I got on, because I've had like the longest day and I'm like, not this man again. But like, if you continue to watch that video, which we certainly don't have to, he plays this like a very out of context clip of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens talking about me. They're actually making fun of me. And he says that they're my friends. Tucker Carlson instigated such a vicious harassment campaign against me that there is a literal NYU case study about it. An entire nonprofit also produced an entire case study on the harassment. My parents were swatted repeatedly because of him. My entire family has suffered consequences as a result of his harassment campaign and my critical reporting on all of these right-wing figures. That's like something I'm mainly known for, is like criticizing the right. So I just need these people to realize that some people are not, like, just because you're not a centrist establishment Democrat defender does not mean you're MAGA. And it's such a bad faith thing to paint me that way.
Yeah. They did that to many of us that wanted to support Jill Stein. They did that to many of us. They said that we were MAGA. Quick question here from Danny. This is a good one. Did Taylor reach out to Pacman for a comment before publishing?
Of course, we reached out to all of them multiple times. I sent very in detailed messages to 1630 Fund and Chorus and every single creator in the article. I said, here's what's going to be mentioned in the article. We are reporting in this article that you are receiving $8,000 per month. I spoke to several of these creators on background before, or, off the record rather, like before the story went out, to say, hey, heads up, this is what you're this is what's going to come out about you. Do you want to include comment? Do you have anything? So they've known for weeks and weeks and weeks exactly what's in this article. And they didn't disprove it before it went live, and they have not disproven it after. Instead, they've just done a bunch of personal attacks and conspiracy theories.
And they did not get out in front of that.
That's why I'm so I cannot stop wondering why, because I thought that the minute that I reached out for comment a month ago, I thought they would call up the Washington Post or the New York Times, which gave them this, very positive profile months ago, and say, hey, we have an exciting new funding program that we'd love to announce with you guys. We'll give you access to the creators. We want to fund creators, and we have this program, and we're just so excited to announce it. So that's why we want to announce it with you. That would have, first of all, any of those mainstream media orgs would have happily done that write-up, and that would have completely cut off my story. But they didn't do that. And even now, that's what I'm saying about them lacking transparency. Even now, they're doubling down on not disclosing. And so that just makes me wonder, the reporter brain in me of what else? Why? Why are they so focused on maintaining this secrecy around this payment scheme and the structure and the funding mechanisms in 1630? What is it? Because it just seems very strange.
Well, there was another thing too that really stood out to me. It's who they reached out to and what they all have in common. And I did notice from the ones that were named, all of them have been, for the most part, despite what Brian said in that video, pretty silent on Gaza, and very, very pro-Israel. At least I remember when David did talk about it, he was definitely defending Israel right out from the gate. That was something they all have in common. I remember Too Raw, Too Real was, again, like I said, it made some very nasty comments towards Rashida Tlaib when she was speaking out in defense of Gaza. And they were, basically Too Raw, Too Real in particular was mocking other people who said, hey, stop the slaughter in Gaza. So it seemed like the one thing they all had in common is that they were either pro-Israel or they rarely talked about what was happening in Gaza.
I think, there's 2 points that I want to make on that. Number one, I did take note that in Brian's video, he said the atrocities in Gaza. He did not say the genocide in Gaza, which is what it is. So I do think even in his debunk video, he's still couching it as, just these sort of vague atrocities. I don't know, our story does not say anything about Israel or AIPAC, actually, despite the fact that they're claiming we don't report any of that. But I know that this is clearly a sticking point for them online. And what I would say to them is that if you don't want people drawing these conclusions, looking at the creators that have come out in this program and drawing conclusions, then release the full roster. Maybe there's 30 other creators in your program that are super leftist and have been super outspoken and involved in anti-genocide, protests. Where are they? Release the roster, and then we can have a fuller picture of the program. But until then, I think it's completely natural for people to look at the list of content creators and look at the people who have been revealed and and say, what do they have in common? Like what issues have they all spoken about? What issues have they not all spoken about? How are they talking about specific issues and drawing their own conclusions? So again, the answer to all of this is more transparency.
Why can't they just be transparent the same way that I would say many of the right content creators are? Because they don't hide that they're aligned with a billionaire or anything like that. At least the conservative commentators like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, et cetera, like they just don't hide that information. Why do you feel they're not willing to be transparent about that?
It's very weird. I mean, Tina Nguyen, who is a phenomenal reporter at The Verge, published a really great piece earlier this week, and she did this conversation with Mia Sato, who's another great reporter at The Verge. Both of them cover the influencer industry. And Tina, who was actually in a right-wing media program herself in college and then got de-radicalized, wrote about how like the thing is like the Turning Point USA model like is very public. Like when you're a Turning Point USA ambassador or whatever, like you're putting that in your bio. It's this public thing. They have these big public events, like they have America Fest or whatever. Like, and that is part of the appeal is like, hey, we're building this mass movement and we want you to join it. Instead, Chorus is like operating in the shadows and kind of not like, and I'm not saying Chorus, which has always had a public facing website. I'm saying like these programs, like there's not clear information around these programs. And I just think it's a huge mistake. And I don't know why they're being so secretive. Even now, I don't know why, for instance, on their website, they have all these like vague things and why they still refuse to confirm the realities of my reporting and sort of keep making these weird personal attacks instead of saying like, admitting that like the crux of the story is true, which is that they took money without disclosing it. And that's a problem for our political media space.
Yeah, I try to tell people just because someone's on YouTube and does political commentary doesn't mean that they're independent. And I don't know. I think sadly, a lot of people assume that. I know I used to assume that back in the day before I started the show. But as time goes on, you start to see like more and more things are being revealed. And it's just, this is why I think this was so disturbing to me. There's already corporate media. We already have to fight against CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. And they have a certain set like talking points that they have that you just know you're going to get from corporate media. Well, people kind of turn to YouTube media to get a different perspective, or maybe to hear something that corporate media is not telling them. And we know that corporate media, they're all bought and paid for. And then you look at the creators who said that they were independent on YouTube, and then it comes to find out they're not independent. Then it makes people look at you the same way as to, so you're basically like corporate media under the disguise of being independent.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, ironically, like something that they've criticized the right for. Like that is something that Democrats have criticized the far right for saying, like, I mean, Barry Weiss is a good example, right? Barry Weiss is like, I'm a independent journalist. And it's like, no, you're funded by billionaires and evil groups that are pro-Israel, and you're just doing Israeli propaganda all day. And now you're going to get bought out for millions of dollars by CBS because you're just spewing propaganda that bolsters, Zionism, basically. And so that the Democrats, or rather the left, has always criticized the right for that. And now these Democrats are like going to do the same thing. It's very ridiculous. And I just think it's a huge missed opportunity. What we should do, especially now that there's so many other groups like Chorus cropping up on the Democrat side, because they realize that they've completely abdicated the internet for like multiple election cycles. I think that those groups are less likely to be transparent because they see that Chorus doesn't have to be transparent. That's the first mover, the biggest in the space. So why would they be transparent? And it just sets this terrible precedent that erodes trust in democracy and our broader political media ecosystem.
Why do you think, Taylor, some people felt, based on the comments I saw on social media, why do you think if this article was written by someone else, why do you think some of the comments were, well, we can't believe her. We can't trust her. If it was written by someone else, do you feel they would have the same response? Why do you feel people are saying that?
Well, so I am the most well-known journalist covering the content creator industry. I don't think that you could find there isn't a journalist that has covered it longer or more in depth than I have. And I say that with a lot of love for my competitors and other journalists, but like I have been on this beat longer. I wrote an entire book. I wrote the definitive book that's the history of the content creator industry that the New York Times gave it literally says the New York Times quote on the front. So I don't, because of that, I've done a lot of things, right? I've exposed massive content creators like sexual assault in Jake Paul's content house. I've revealed, Mr. Beast doing sort of exploiting his workers years before that all came out publicly on YouTube. I exposed the identity of libs of TikTok, this horrible right-wing influencer troll. Like, I've done a lot of really critical reporting. And because I report very critically on people in power and people with big media platforms, and because I'm very online myself, and because I've been sued for defamation all the time, I have been targeted in so many smear campaigns over the years. And the smear campaigns just pile up, and you'll see this nonsense come out in moments like this, where people will say like, well, I heard she's been fired from every job she's ever worked at or something. Of course, a complete lie. Like, it's the point when I leave my jobs, I have to like get a statement, just like being like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm quitting to do whatever, but like, I need you guys to just give a statement that, because like people online are going to make these claims, or, I heard she's a secret Republican, or I heard like these smears kind of build over time, and the goal is to discredit journalists. There's a reason that they want to discredit the most high profile, well-known, well-sourced journalist covering online influencers in the year 2025, when online influence is one of the most powerful political tools of our time, because they don't want accountability. And when you see these people in the comments online saying, oh, you can't trust Taylor Lorenz, you're feeding into that campaign, which is a fundamentally right-wing campaign, by the way, because it's mostly right-wingers that are doing that. Like, they don't want the critical reporting on libs of TikTok or these shady dark money groups or the surveillance technology stuff that I report on. Like, that is the type of reporting that they want to shut down. And it's a shame. I don't know what to say to them other than like, stop believing everything that you see online. That's a huge part of the problem, is that you guys are just listening to TikTok content creators fill your brains with slop, and you're just believing everything that they claim.
Have any of them reached out to you since the article was published?
Yeah, I have heard from a couple of them. Obviously, we've been in touch with our sources, and we had sources within the program. I've seen the group chats that they're all planning the smear campaign against me, where they're in these group chats planning, orchestrating harassment, planning, how they're going to spin it. It's just gross to see. And the people that have reached out are mostly like, trying to justify it to me or whatever, which they don't need to. It is what it is. I'm not passing moral judgment on them. I'm just reporting this story out. And Wired has editorial standards. It's not my personal blog, like, this is like I say our story because I'm not the only one that worked on this story. I'm the writer on the story. I'm the one that broke the story, but there's a slew of editors that it was legal reviewed. It was fact checked. Like, there was a lot that goes into publishing a story like this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. This is why I say sometimes like people are fighting against there's a whole machine to this. When Taylor mentioned those group chats, there's a whole machine. Like, when they throw like smears and stuff at people, or they throw the attacks, like we all saw this like last year with Jill Stein, how everybody had the same PR talking point and all those attacks just went out. It really is like a well-oiled machine. And
Sabrina, I have had, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but it's like, this type of smear campaign has been happening since Charlottesville for me. So since 2017, that's when it started, most of it. I have had people run Facebook ads against me. I have had people leverage bot networks to mass message hundreds of thousands of accounts with lies about me, claiming I'm fired from my job, claiming all this nonsense. I've had people write fake AI-generated SEO smear articles about me. I've had a campaign to manipulate my Google results. There are entire hate websites dedicated to me where these people organize. It being targeted in a smear campaign, like, it's so hard to overstate. And then you see these people make these comments online, and you're like, you fell for this. Like, you're falling for propaganda, basically, against a journalist who, whatever, even if I posted something on Twitter that you don't like one time or whatever, like, my reporting is solid. I'm a good reporter. And Wired is not, again, like a personal blog. So it's very frustrating to see anybody fall for this. We really need trust in journalists, especially independent journalists, which I am. Like, we need to build up journalism, not dismantle it.
What's one thing you think you learned from some of the places that you worked at, like the Washington Post? One thing that you learned.
I think what I learned working in institutional media, and I never aspired to work, like, I started as a blogger, and I got into media because I loved the sort of the democratic nature of being able to blog and being able to circumvent these gatekeepers and whatever. And then I sort of ended up in these really old school institutions. And what I learned is like, it's not as nefarious. Like there's that saying of like anything that can be attributed to like incompetence. It's most likely incompetence rather than like malice. Or like I look at some of the really horrible stuff that these news organizations have done and the apologia they've posted for genocide or whatever, and so much of it is just ignorance and incompetence and not even some like evil secret plot. And I just like I worked in a lot of these places where I just was shocked at what they were doing. When I worked in the New York Times newsroom in 2021, for instance, when Biden took office, they misled the public about masking and COVID and manufactured consent for basically forcing everyone back to work without worker protections. And they let the head economist writer write the main morning newsletter, putting out really dangerous health misinformation to tens of millions of people. And I just was like, wow, this is really bad, what these organizations can do. And they produce some amazing journalism, and there are some amazing journalists that still work at these places. But I just realized that like a lot of what they do is really harmful.
Taylor, thank you so much. I'm pretty sure you will be on more shows to come. And I wish you the best. Hopefully this works out well. Like I said, David is crashing out. I don't think he's going to move forward with that lawsuit. I think he's just like blowing smoke up people's ass, to be honest with you. But I wish you the best. And like I said, I think you did a great job on this piece. And I think this is something that people needed to know.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for being such a great voice in the independent media landscape, because it's just so hard to like cut through all the noise, and you're doing such great work. And I appreciate you having me on so much. And so yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gents, that was Taylor Lorenz. So you guys see David Pakman is really crashing out. Eric, can we go to part 2 of Type VNC? So we go to the other stories. Really crashing out. It's ridiculous. I really do worry. Like I was thinking about this. I don't know, guys. Like I really do worry about this reaction from David. I'm thinking about litigation. I'm thinking about suing. It's just like, so... You know how many times people said things about me? And people said things about me that's not true. But you don't hear me go, oh, I think I'm going to sue. I'm going to do. Like, so that's scary. That I think is scary. Really weird. Really weird. But again, the theme tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is follow the money. Let's go to some of the comments and then we're going to get to the next story. Hey. Shout out to Joan Biaz, who's been a member for 15 months. Love you, Sabby. Love. Thank you and welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okie dokie. Let's start off with a big money story, right? Okay. Well, I never ever thought that I would see a coalition between Ro Khanna, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massie. If you would have told me this was going to happen years ago, I'd have been like, get out of here. Who are you kidding? Get out of here. But it did happen and is continuing. And they are collaborating to fight for the Epstein victims. Now, as you guys know, of course, there was a lot of pressure, I think, put on the DOJ after Pam Bondi's statements to release those Epstein files. That did not happen. Now, the victims have come forward and they said that they are going to make their own list. I want to get into what happened yesterday, and we're going to give you the update today because Thomas Massie has already named a name. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Again, I can't believe this coalition came together, and I just never thought I'd see this.
There is something that is rotten in Washington. Less than 1% of these files have been released. We are demanding today on the discharge petition that all of the files be released. We know we have 212 Democrats and we have 4 Republicans, courageous Republicans like Thomas Massie, Nancy Mace, who was so emotional yesterday after talking to the survivors, Congresswoman Boebert, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. We need just 2 more signatures to force the release. So we gather here on the steps of the Capitol to confront these corrupt forces. Today, we stand with survivors. We stand against big money. We stand to protect America's children. that is really what this is about. I now want to bring up my Republican colleague, Thomas Massie. He has shown so much courage, so much leadership. And I saw some people, I say the same thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has shown so much courage on this issue. I saw some people when I was coming here calling her names. We've got to stop that. We've got to stop the partisanship on this issue. This is an issue where they both have shown real courage and leadership, and I appreciate them joining us today.
I never thought I would see this, you guys. Like, I'm really just like, I think people can learn something from this. Ro Khanna referred to Thomas Massie as his colleague, not like hateful, like no hateful comments or anything like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, he stood up for her, defended her because people have been attacking her because she's on the right side of this issue. And I don't know. A lot of conservatives said that they cared about the women and all those types of things. But the moment that Trump was president and they don't want to release these files, people are trying to make excuses for it. And it's really sad. And it just goes to show you there's some type of heroship with these politicians, which really needs to go away. But I never thought that I would see this. So Thomas Massie comes up, and then I think MTG is after him.
Congressman Massie.
I want to thank my colleague Ro Khanna for co-leading this effort to bring transparency and justice for these victims. I hope my colleagues are watching this press conference. I want them to think, what if this was your sister? What if this was your daughter? When these survivors speak, the Washington establishment is asking the American public to believe something that is not believable. They're asking you to believe that two individuals created hundreds of victims and they acted alone, and that the DOJ has no idea of who else might have been involved, that nobody else did anything that rose to a criminal enterprise. The American people know that's not true. Now, the Speaker of the House just offered a fig leaf to my colleagues. They're going to vote on a non-binding resolution today that does absolutely nothing. I appreciate the efforts of my colleague, James Comer, who's leading the Oversight Committee. They may find some information, but they're allowing the DOJ to curate all of the information that the DOJ is giving them. If you've looked at the pages they've released so far, they're heavily redacted. Some pages are entirely redacted. And 97% of this is already in the public domain.
Yeah, I'm going to show you those pages as well. They've blacked out. They have redacted a lot of information.
So I'm calling on my colleagues. Be one of the next two who sponsors this discharge petition. I think it's shameful that this has been called a hoax. Hopefully today we can clear that up. This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C.
There it is.
So today we're standing with these survivors. We're giving them a voice. And I want to close by thanking them. They are brave. I hope they encourage other survivors to come forward and to tell their stories, not just of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, but anywhere in the country. This is a message that we are sending. This is a litmus test. Can we drain the swamp? Are there people who are outside of the reach of the law? I don't think there should be. So hopefully today we'll get 2 more signatures on the discharge petition. That's all we need. And with that, I want to introduce the bravest woman in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I find it interesting that the 3 Republican co-sponsors are women. These are women standing up for women. And Marjorie was the first to do it. And I think she deserves all of our gratitude for breaking that barrier and leading the way for the other Republicans. Hopefully they can find their spines as well. And with that, I give you Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes. And I'll explain to you why I was surprised Nancy Mace was, one to join along because she was not willing to at first, but she also has said in the past that she's a survivor. But these guys are being threatened. I'll get to that as well.
Good morning. This is my 5th year in Congress, and this is the largest press conference that I've seen since I've been here. And this is because this is an issue that matters so much to Americans. This is an issue that doesn't have political boundaries. It's an issue that Republicans and Democrats should never fight about. As a matter of fact, it's such an important issue that it should bring us all together. It's grieved me to watch the arguments and debates take place among my colleagues and even the administration. I think this is something that was worth fighting for. You see, the women behind me are going to tell you stories that you've never heard before. These are unimaginable horrors that they've lived with for their entire lives since they were very, very young. But these are also similar stories that many children, teenagers, women, and even men are enduring nightmares right now as we speak. You see, these women have been fighting since the 1990s. I heard one woman tell us yesterday since 1996. And they have carried with them shame. But I want to tell you something. The shame does not fall on these brave, courageous women. The shame falls on every single person that coldly turned a blind eye to their abuse. The shame falls on every single person that enabled it. The shame falls on every single person that took money to continue it. And the shame falls on the people in power over the past several decades that protected the monster, Jeffrey Epstein, and his cabal that continued a nightmare. Those people deserve the shame. And today we are coming forward and we are going to fight like hell for these women, because we have to fight like hell for those that are enduring sexual abuse and are living in a prison of shame. Anyone that is being abused, it is not your fault. You should live with no guilt or fear or shame. All of the fault belongs to the evil people that do these things to the innocent. This is the most important fight we can wage here in Congress, is fighting for innocent people that never receive justice. And the women behind me have never received justice. And do you want to know why? It's because Jeffrey Epstein somehow was able to walk among the most rich, powerful people, not only in America, but foreign countries. Yesterday, I heard countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and even Israel, and other countries. The truth needs to come out. And the government.
Uh-oh, she said the Israel word.
Government holds the truth. The cases that are sealed hold the truth. Jeffrey Epstein's estate holds the truth. The FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA holds the truth. And the truth we are demanding come out on behalf of these women, but also as a strong message to every innocent child, teenager, woman, and man that is being held captive in abuse. This should never happen in America, and it should never be a political issue that divides us. And I want to thank Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey for doing something brave, crossing political boundaries for a very important fight. And I'm honored to join both of them. And I'm honored that Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert signed the discharge petition along with myself. And I asked my Republican colleagues not to choose just one path for justice and transparency and accountability, but I asked my Republican colleagues to choose every path for justice and accountability and transparency. And with that, I'd like to bring back Congressman Ro Khanna to start this important press conference.
So that was the gist of what happened there. There's a couple of things I do want to highlight as well. People are definitely coming after them, right? Definitely coming after them. One of the victims said this yesterday. This is the one that has put a lot of people on alert.
Hi there. My name is Lisa Phillips, and I'm the host of a award-nominated podcast called From Now On, a platform supporting survivors. I want to thank all of my survivor sisters who came before me today, I'll be very short. In the year 2000, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's island while on a photo shoot on a nearby island. Who I saw and what I experienced there was a glimpse into a very dark and disturbing world. For years after, I tried to avoid Jeffrey, but he had introduced me to Katie Ford, the owner of the Ford modeling agency. Epstein's reach went to the very top of fashion, arts, and entertainment. This did not just happen to underage girls in Florida. In New York City, hundreds of young, ambitious women were abused by him. Epstein was not just a serial predator, he was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew, many participated, and many profited. And yet he was protected. So I stand here today for every woman who has been silenced, exploited, and dismissed. We are not asking for pity. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice.
The modeling agencies, when you're hearing a lot of this, you know what it makes us realize, and like also reading Whitney Webb's articles, it makes us realize these modeling agencies, and we can't say all of them, but some of these modeling agencies were basically just sex trafficking companies. And, you know, they get them young, like they get the girls young, like for the modeling agencies. They're not trying to recruit someone that's like 25. They're trying to recruit someone, some of them as young as 14. So that's basically what that's about. Now, she said, like, again, they know who the names are. I want to go ahead and play that part of the video because that speech is rather long there. But they know who they saw. They know who the men were. They know who was involved, or in some cases also maybe women. So listen to this part that she says here.
In the year 2000, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's island while on a photo shoot on a nearby island. Who I saw and what I experienced there was a glimpse. He was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew, many participated, and many profited. And yet he was protected. So I stand here today for every woman who has been silenced, exploited, and dismissed. We are not asking for pity. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? And also, I would like to announce here today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors. No one else.
Survivors of.
So here's the thing, folks. Protect those women. Those women definitely need to be protected. And obviously Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna also realize that, which is why they go on to say they believe that they should be allowed to read the names on the House floor. Check this out. It was on CNN the other day. Oop, let me just reload it for you. Sorry, guys. It's a Twitter thing. It's a Twitter thing. Twitter thing, Twitter thing, Twitter thing. And here we go here. Hopefully. This is really important. I hope you guys get to see this video if I can get this going right. Okay, there we go.
These documents don't get released is compile their own, basically, list of people around Jeffrey Epstein and release that. You actually said tonight that you have a plan to potentially help them with that.
Yeah, so the survivors said that they had decided to compile their own list. But the reality is if they try to release that list, they're going to be sued into homelessness. They will be attacked. They will have death threats. And so what my colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene volunteered to do, and I've volunteered to do as well, is to read that list on the floor of the House of Representatives, because our founders put into the Constitution speech or debate immunity, which says that we can't be prosecuted for what we say on the floor of the House. So we're willing to help those survivors get those names out there. And as my colleague Ro Khanna has said, we trust the public to determine who were donors to the Epstein Scholarship Fund and who were users of the women who were exposed to sexual abuse, to differentiate between those two groups of people.
Congressman Khanna, do you support that? Reading the names from these women on the House floor?
I do, but I don't think it needs to come to that. I mean, there shouldn't be burdened to have to come up with the list. You know, one of the things that struck me is some of the survivors said that they themselves had not seen the files. One person pleaded with America saying she wants to try to understand her own memories and she wants to see these files to be able to piece that together. Look, this was such an emotional moment that after I spoke, after the survivors, Marjorie Taylor Greene came over and gave me a hug. I mean, people should have seen the humanity there. And I don't know, after hearing those women, why we just don't release the files. I mean, it actually would make the president look good. He could come out and say, no other president has released the files. I'm releasing the files. My focus right now, and I think anyone who was at that press conference, is how do we get justice and closure for those survivors?
Yeah. So I hope it would come to that they would read those names aloud. Thomas Massie did go ahead and mention one name that was earlier today. Let me go ahead and share this one. Mario said, breaking, Representative Thomas Massie just dropped a bomb. He named one of the billionaires. So listen to this one. Oh, Twitter, you're so annoying with me today. Twitter, you working my nerve. Like my mom used to say, you are working my nerve.
$2 million of ads in my district since I started this effort. His name is John Paulson. He's a hedge fund, one of the billionaires who's running $2 million of ads in my district since I started this effort. His name is John Paulson. He's a hedge fund manager and a major donor to the Republican Party, a major donor to the Speaker of the House, a major donor to the president's campaign, and he's in Epstein's Black Book. Now that's public, but that's indicative of the types of people who may be implicated or just embarrassed by a completely release. One of the billion.
So did you guys hear that? So one of the billionaires that is attacking him, his campaign, Thomas Massie, also just happens to be mentioned or listed in Epstein's Black Book. Okay, so his name is John Paulson, and I think I saw someone shared. Let me see if it's still here. And for some reason, Twitter videos today have not been syncing up with the mouth. That's him right there, John Paulson. So he mentioned him. You know, they're really coming after Thomas Massie. And another thing that was mentioned too is this issue with Les Wexner. Remember, he's the owner of Victoria's Secret. He's another one whose name is being mentioned. And they brought up something during this press conference that I think is very important. Really good question. Why the hell isn't Les Wexner? Why isn't he prosecuted? Why isn't he being questioned? I mean, this is the guy who gave Jeffrey Epstein the money. So listen to this. They do bring this up during the conference as well.
Do any of today's survivors speaking, did anybody here ever have any connection or interaction with Epstein's alleged financier, Leslie Wexner?
No.
You want to address
Well,
that?
I just want to say one thing that's very clear when people say, you know, please share names. There are names that are very well known, like that of Les Wexner, who everyone knows supplied an enormous amount of Epstein's, you know, financial wealth and allowed this operation to happen. So it's, I think, confusing to many of us why there have not been more ramifications for him, and he's been seen as a victim when clearly, I believe there's more to it.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. Like, nobody's bringing him in for questioning. Again, follow the money. He's the one who financed, you know, some of this, but nobody's bringing him in. Now, if you're wondering where everyone else is, Thomas Massie did speak out and say that these politicians are being threatened. The White House is threatening them, telling them, don't you say anything, don't you speak up. That's why it's far and few, like those that are around. He mentioned this here too. This was Ford Fisher on the ground.
Thomas Massey, what's some of the kickback you're getting back from your colleagues? What are some reasons why they don't want to endorse this?
They're being threatened. I mean, look, I've got $2 million of ads running against me back in my district, and it's funded by 3 billionaires. One of them's in Epstein's black book. I mean, this is what happens. Your consultants, your political consultants will abandon you when the White House gets mad at you. The speaker will block all of your bills. They'll shut down your fundraising. This isn't political, but it is. I mean, the opposition to this is very political.
Yes, it is. So you see what's happening. So, you know, you guys have seen this. They've been coming after Thomas Massey. They've been coming after Marjorie Taylor Greene, coming after their seats. In fact, I want to show you this. Donald Trump was on Scott Jennings' radio show. Of course, it had to be this guy. It had to be Scott Jennings that he was talking to. And listen to what Donald Trump says about Thomas Massey.
So we have a thing that's happening, and I do bring a unity to the Republican Party. Do you know, almost every single person I've endorsed has won.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone who hasn't. If I endorse a person, they win. And I do well in the elections, too. I don't want to put that down because with the Republican Party, it's like 399-0. Think of that. And many of those are insurgents, people that I like better. You know, I didn't like a certain Republican. And, you know, we like this guy, Massey. He's going to be taken out. He's no good. He never votes. He never votes for anything, you know. It's like he's from Kentucky. He's always a no vote. It's like automatic. If it's good or bad, he thinks he gets publicity by voting now. We call him Rand Paul Jr. But it's terrible, some of these guys. So sometimes you have to take them out, and I do, and I win. You know,
Did you guys hear what he just said? He said, so sometimes you have to take him out. So, you know, you guys know that Donald Trump has been pushing this campaign against Thomas Massey earlier on, even before the Epstein thing, because Thomas Massey was like, no, I don't want to vote to send more money to Israel. You know, so that's a big thing. Donald Trump is still calling this a Democrat hoax. Till this day. Sorry, guys. X has been kind of funky today. But we'll get it rocking and rolling.
Speaking at a press conference on Capitol Hill, they're calling for these case files, these documents to be released. And Thomas Massey, who was sponsoring a discharge position to get the House to vote on releasing those documents, says he doesn't believe you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be. And he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow walking the release. Is the Justice Department protecting any friends or donors, sir?
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. Even if you look at D.C. right now, D.C.
See, they're trying to get your attention on other issues, whether it's Venezuela. They're like, oh, Venezuela's bringing all the drugs. We got to go after them, right? So they attack them. Oh, we got to get the crime in D.C. Let's send the National Guard in. They're trying to like move your head in a different direction so that you forget about this. Like this is what I've been talking about. So the files that they released, this is what the files look like. Donald Trump is lying. The DOJ tried to introduce a statement alleging Epstein conspired to sexually abuse minor females for his sexual pleasure, but that line is now completely blacked out in the public record. They did not just redact names, they redacted the crime itself. This is what they released. So look at this. What are we even reading here? They're blocking out. Look what's blacked out. So they don't want you to see anything. This is what I'm talking about. So they're not giving you, no, he's full of shit. So they are protecting powerful people. They're protecting the billionaire class. And what's even crazier about this is I'm looking at the people who stood up, right? Now you got crazy ass Laura Loomer. She thinks that it's more important to show loyalty to Donald Trump than to stand with survivors. She is really coming after Marjorie Taylor Greene on this issue. I've been telling everyone for years that Representative MTG is a Trump hater. Today, I was vindicated. I've had to deal with this nasty bitch lying about me and pretending to be pro-Trump for years, while I have been warning everyone MTG is and always has been a Trump hater. Told you. Now, let's put two and two together, ladies and gentlemen. You have a conference where Epstein victims are speaking. People want the files released, the list, they want the list of names. And to Laura Loomer, it is more important that she says to you that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Trump hater because she's not agreeing with Trump on every single thing. That's more important than releasing the list of the people, the corrupt, powerful people who sex trafficked underage girls. This is the cartoon that we live in. It's a cartoon. I don't know what else to call it. That's what this is. And so Laura Loomer, who is very pro-Israel, who always tries to find a way to protect Israel, of course she would come in to try to protect Jeffrey Epstein. It is just, it's unbelievable. And honestly, quite frankly, it's disgusting. But again, I never thought I would see this, where Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, and Marjorie Taylor Greene would all just join forces together and say, let's fight together on this issue. I never would have believed this if you would have told me, ladies and gentlemen. Never would have believed it. And I'm going to be watching, paying attention to this for the next couple of days because, yes, they do need to read the list of names. Name them. Name them. Some of them we may not be surprised by, but some of them we may be surprised by. But if you follow the money, you know why they're not releasing the full files, because they are protecting the powerful. And some of those powerful people are donors to campaigns. Let's go to the comments on Rockfin. Hey, hey, hey. Doobie doobie doo. Let's go to some of the comments on Rockfin. Okay, I'll bring this up here. Thank you, Eric. I don't know what I did there. Eric usually does this, not me, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know where Eric went. Oh, there he is. I never get this right. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Dave. Question, who is on Taylor's team besides her? Then she referred to how many others in the team? I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't see this before, David. Thank you, Roger. Some people said that they could not be transparent because they signed an NDA thinking that that's an excuse. Here's the thing. The moment that NDA was presented to you, you had a choice. Sacrifice integrity and credibility for the money, or vice versa. They chose the former. Pacman is right. We are all not in the same left. People like him are Democrat left, aka liberal, pro-corporate left. And thank you for this one, Roger. Rest of us are left of the Democratic Party, pro-working class, reparations, anti-war, anti-genocide left. We are not the same. Well said there. Thank you. And thank you, Chris. Following the money led me to the Hasorg Weiss, a Swiss billionaire who contributed to the 1630 over the years. Surprisingly, not Soros, Tom Steyer. Interesting. Lala says Marjorie will be voted out of office next. Yeah, they're going to, they're already coming after her. Thank you, Wanker. Mike Graval didn't ask to read the Pentagon Papers. Leroy says, follow the money. Who else did Wexler give money to? That's a good one. Neymar says, can they be any more transparently corrupt? Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Okay, and speaking of corruption, we have a pretty big story that just basically confirms what some of us knew after October 7th. After October 7th, outlets like the Gray Zone, Mondoweiss reported that, Israel knew what was coming. And also so did the New York Times. I'll show you that in just a minute. But now it is being confirmed in Haaretz, which is an Israeli outlet, by the way, that a top IDF commander, opted not to boost security after visiting the Nova Festival 1 hour before October 7th Hamas massacre. Check this out, guys. This is a Haaretz investigation. It reveals that Colonel Haim Cohen arrived at the Nova site about an hour before the Hamas attack, saw thousands of partygoers with minimal police presence, but did not consider dispersing the festival. Most IDF forces were unaware it was even taking place. So let's get into this here. This is the story that is kind of driving some people crazy. But like I said, people had hinted towards this not too long after October 7th. And about an hour before the Hamas attack on the Nova Music Festival on the morning of October 7th, the IDF commander in charge arrived at the site after receiving prior intelligence warnings, but he took no preemptive action, Haaretz has learned. Well, no, Haaretz, you did not just learn that, because here's the thing. There was this article by the New York Times, and this article was published, where's my date? November 30th of 2023. And the headline read, just to remind everybody, Israel knew Hamas's attack plan more than a year ago. So, no, they didn't just know. Now, we'll come back to this, because there were many people who were trying to give a heads up in independent media that tried to say, guys, Israel let this happen. They knew ahead of time. They let this happen so they can go ahead and use this as an excuse to wipe the Palestinian people out. Now, let's continue. Again, this is an Israeli outlet discussing this. Lieutenant Colonel Haim Cohen, commander of the Northern Brigade in the Gaza Division, observed massive crowds at the festival and noted that only a handful of police officers were on security duty. But Cohen told military investigators he had no information suggesting that he should act differently or order the festival to be dispersed. It has not yet been clarified exactly what intelligence information was disclosed to him that night. So again, people have to understand that Israeli intelligence is highly sophisticated, so sophisticated to the point where they can use it to see, I don't know, like a crumb on your shoe. So this whole idea that, oh my God, we had no idea, they just came out of nowhere, which the New York Times had reported about that in November of 2023, that they knew 1.5 years prior about the planned attack and chose not to put in any preemptive measures, which means once again that Israel was willing to sacrifice its own people to remove an entire population of Palestinian people. So this commander had intelligence prior and chose not to do anything about it. So does everybody see this? The Nova party is going here, where 378 people were killed and 44 were taken hostage into Gaza, became the deadliest site of the October 7th attacks. An IDF investigation obtained by Haaretz determined that it was a mistake not to consider canceling or dispersing the festival during the divisional assessment held that night. A deeper discussion might have led to such a decision, despite the division's limited understanding of Hamas intentions and intelligence constraints. The investigation also said that Cohen miscalculated when he did not assign a military force to the festival complex, given the size of the crowd, the timing, and the sensitive location. So, do you guys actually believe that he miscalculated, or you to believe that was intentional. I think it was intentional. They control and track what food goes into Gaza. They control the air, the land, and the sea. They were shooting at peaceful Palestinian protesters. They were shooting at their feet years ago. So do you guys really believe that, oh, it was an oversight on my part, I miscalculated? No. This is what we were saying before. Now, it goes on to say that Cohen remained at his home in Tiberias, northern Israel, overnight into Saturday, October 7th, 2023. Now, throughout the night, the Shin Bet military intelligence and senior IDF command picked up alarming signs of unusual Hamas activity. Although not all the information was passed up the chain of command to Cohen, he decided at 3:13 a.m. for unclear reasons to drive from Tiberias to the division's distant southern base. So it goes on to say here, overnight into Saturday, additional intelligence reached the division, and at 4 a.m., a telephone briefing led by IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halavi and attended by the Southern Command Chief was held. During Cohen's drive south, Cohen received updated assessments of the situation. After roughly a 2-hour drive, Cohen arrived at the festival complex around 5:30 a.m. and on his way to the division base. In several conversations with senior military officers, he described seeing firsthand the large number of attendees, more than 4,000, and the security arrangements in place. Cohen noted that he saw a force of Yemen counterterrorism unit and another police vehicle positioned on Route 232. He told military investigators that this apparent increased police presence reassured him that the event was secure. But we know that's BS because the New York Times reported in November 2023, Israel knew Hamas attack plan more than 1 year ago. And it goes on to show that here, Israeli officials obtained Hamas's battle plan for the October 7th terrorist attack more than a year before it happened. Documents, emails, and interviews show. But Israeli military and intelligence officials dismissed the plan as aspirational, considering it too difficult for Hamas to carry out. And it was approximately a 40-page document. So I just say this, as many restrictions that Israel has put in place for things that did not happen, but they thought could happen, as many restrictions that they put in place against the Palestinian people, you mean to tell me you receive a 40-page document that shows a planned attack on said date from Hamas, but you don't take it seriously? But not only that, but you don't put anything in place, any measures in place, any units in place in case that did actually happen. And this is why I say, and I've said this for quite some time, I think they wanted it to happen. And this was going to be what they would use as a reason to kill an entire population of people, to genocide the Palestinian people. It doesn't make any damn sense. You got checkpoints all over the damn place. It's apartheid state. You have checkpoints in the West Bank. You have all of these restrictions in place. But you receive this document. You do nothing about it. Now you got the top IDF commander who comes forward. Now they say, well, I had intelligence the day before, but, I thought everything was fine, so we didn't do anything. Now that's twice. So it goes back to the Hannibal Directive, where Israel, and they've done this before, where they have been willing to sacrifice their own people because they feel as though this is part of the greater good and this way to accomplish this greater Israel plan. Now, I saw a number of Zionists that were not happy about this article that was published by Haaretz. Not too happy about it. Kind of pissed off, actually, that this was posted and they're calling it fake news and all this type of stuff. Okay, honey, it's your outlet. It's Israel's outlet. It literally says Israel News. It's just terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. And I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do with this information, but what it does do is it does confirm some of the suspicions that were reported earlier on from independent media journalists like the Gray Zone, like Monda Weiss, Electronic Intifada, etc. They got it right. Corporate media was very, very, very wrong. And even some in independent media got this wrong. And if you follow the money, then you all know that this is all part of that Gaza resort plan, which apparently, according to Whitney Webb's article, was already decided upon in 2016. So if we know that Paolo Zampali, who was Trump's appointee, had already decided that, yes, we want this Gaza resort. In 2016, he had already decided that. And you know that the New York Times reported that they knew about the planned attack a year and a half before October 7th. And you now know that the IDF commander is saying, yeah, I got intelligence the night before, but I didn't do anything about it. Then you know it was all part of the plan. What a mess. What a mess. What a mess. What a mess. It's out there. It is what it is. But I'm telling you guys, connect the dots. Some of the reporting from Whitney Webb's Epstein articles are connected to other things, not just about Jeffrey Epstein. They're long articles, but when you sit down and you read through it, you start connecting it to all these other situations and cases. Follow the money, man. Follow the money. Yes, they are willing to genocide an entire population of people to take the land, build resorts, steal the resources that are along that Gaza coast. They're willing to do it all for the money. Let's go to some of the comments, folks. We got one more story for you. We got to end with a funny one. Thank you for the super chat, Marvin. How many Epstein rings exist in the US/globe? I don't know. That's a good question, but we know it's global, right? Thank you, nerd. Doobie doobie doo. Don't let the music stop, Sabs. Hello. And thank you, Karina, for the super sticker. Thank you so much. All righty. We have one more story, folks. I know it's getting late, but we have one more story, and I thought we had to end with something kind of funny because this just had me cracking up. At least Alex Jones did. So, is it possible that Alex Jones is anti-worker? Well, Owen Schroyer, who worked with Alex Jones on the show InfoWars, has come out with these statements that Alex Jones was not easy to work for and that he's out of here, he's gone, he's donezo. Check it out. You get to hear it from him yourself. Shout out to Hotspot.
You know, Alex had been coming into my show and talking about how I'm negative and calling me a pessimist and all this other stuff, which is fine. You work for Alex, you're going to get hit with it a lot. Alex is not easy to work for, and that's fine. You know, that's okay. But okay, he says I'm too negative. He says I'm a pessimist, whatever. I'm too anti-Trump. So I just said, all right, you know what? I'll just take some time off. I'll just disappear. And if Alex thinks I'm too negative, then maybe he's right. Maybe he.
So that's the political aspect of it, right? Too anti-Trump, according to Owen.
Then maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm too negative now. Maybe I'm too much of a pessimist now. Maybe I'm too anti-Trump now. Whatever his issue was when he kept coming in the show, telling me I'm too negative, saying I'm a pessimist on his show, I said, okay, maybe he's right. I'll take some time off. I'll blow off some steam. I'll just get out of the ring for a week and, maybe I'll come back a little more positive. And maybe there was a level of reality to that. And I think I did come back more positive. But the same issues that I had started up immediately as soon as I came back. And it's not to say that I didn't have creative control over the InfoWars war room. But I mean, imagine it's like somebody staring over your back 24/7. And so every single day that I came back, it was either a guest that I was told I had on at the last minute, or it was, him coming into the studio. He wants me to cover this. He wants me to cover that, or I have to host his show for him because he's not in. So there's nothing consistent for me. I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which I'll explain what I want to do in a second here.
Yeah, so it sounds like micromanagement. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't like that. I've never been a fan of micromanagement. I hate it when he said someone's looking over your shoulder. I don't like that at all. But apparently he felt like Alex Jones was not someone that was easy to work for. Apparently he feels as though Alex Jones felt that he was too anti-Trump. Also, there apparently is some issues here with Israel. So check this out as well. Alex Jones interrupts an interview between Nick Fuentes and Owen Schroyer. So check this out, guys. It's the Israel stuff.
But I want to get back to what you were saying about college, because I think it's hold on a second.
I just got a call from Tel Aviv. It's got the call. Stop talking about Israel right now.
Oh, it was straight out of Tel Aviv, huh?
Yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu, my boss.
Are you sure it wasn't Jerusalem?
Stop right now.
Or Washington, D.C.?
I'm ordering you.
Or Trump Gaza International?
I'm in there every day telling Owen. I have to restrain him.
Did you, are you going to take the trip, Alex? You want to
So I thought this was a joke, right? It's a joke.
go touch the wall?
I would love to go to Egypt. I'd love to go to Israel.
I could arrange that for you.
I want to go see the Great Wall of China. I mean, I'm going to work with Xi Jinping. Yeah, no, I would love to go see Golgotha where Christ was crucified. And I would love to do all that.
Would you kiss the wall? Like Vance?
Probably to troll people, yeah.
That'd be a good troll. That'd be a pretty good troll.
I would do the opposite thing. I would refuse to touch the wall to troll people.
No, listen, that's a Titus destroyed that in 70 AD. So you can't hate those people. And we say we're not Judeo-Christian. I know that. We are Christian. But the point is, it does Abrahamic religion and all that. We can't, you even hate the Jews of 2,000 years ago. My point is, Netanyahu.
Are we having a history discussion now? Or do we have to do this now?
It's because we disagree with a bunch of bad stuff Israel does. We don't have to hate people. What's wrong with the solidarity? J.D. Vance also goes to the Catholic Church. He's Catholic. You go say hi to the Pope or whatever. My point is, you think somebody's bad if they go do this?
Well, Vance visits the Pope. What happens? Pope dies.
Oh, you think he killed him?
He visits India. Nuclear war is about to break out. He dropped the trophy. He broke the trophy.
Is he the Antichrist?
Isn't
I'm
it
just
funny,
saying,
though, how nobody's talking about that Pakistan-India situation? It's like there was a huge shootout at the border.
Yeah. And
they didn't even talk about it.
The threatening.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. It's almost like they're giving JD Vance the Clinton treatment, which is like, oh God, the Clintons must have been there. Like they say that when someone like dies, people would say, uh-oh, the Clintons must have been there, like that type of thing. But yeah, this was definitely like a joke. They seem to get along pretty well here. Again, that's in front of the camera though, because people are different in front of the camera than behind the camera sometimes, and that's in front of other people.
People are at war with each other.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for years, but it's like,
wait a minute, how do we tie that into Israel? How do we blame Israel?
They're working with India.
It's true.
That is true, right?
So it's Israel's fault. Okay.
You said it, not me.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I saw this video, I was like, they seem pretty cool there. They seem like they get along pretty well. But again, you have to remind myself, in front of other people can be one way. And then when other people aren't around, sometimes you want to be a fly on that wall to see what really goes down when they're not in front of other people. Of course, they did have Nick Fuentes was right there with them, as a guest. So I don't really know. A lot of times you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But then here's another thing. Alex Jones did respond to this. And this response is the funny part to me. Like, you guys got to see this. Watch this.
He would try to control the show. He would whatever. Total lie. And then as all the articles come out and Jones censored Schroyer on Trump criticism and Israel. So let's see if Schroyer comes out and apologizes for it. Oh, no, he's going to say, I didn't really exactly say that. No, you couched each statement perfectly thought out and looking down at your notes to be able to lie about us and try to hurt this organization for your benefit so you could be a hero.
So do you hear what Alex Jones is saying here? So he's saying that when Owen, I guess, quit, said that he was censored on Trump and Israel, right? Okay. But they had that joke there. So like I said, it's one of those things, it's like you don't really know what to believe because they were joking about it there for a minute. That's why I wanted to show you that one too.
Lie about us and try to hurt this organization for your benefit so you could be a hero. You are a snake. You are a rat. You are a fraud. You are a backstabber. You are a handbiter. You are a disgrace.
I'm sorry. Because he called him a number of things. It wasn't just one thing. He said a backstabber, a handbiter.
And let me say something else about you. Even before he went to prison for 4 months, and we did the crowdfunding, raised, fought everything for him, all that, he stopped talking to the crew very much and didn't have a good attitude, was pissed off all the time. And then it got to where he'd show up right before the show, wouldn't even talk to the crew. He'd walk by me and say something like, you know, just sort of laughing at me. Like, again, I'm not in junior high, so it didn't hurt me at that level. It hurt me that he was just like, yeah, I heard you. Yes. Oh, and we can go further.
That's actually a pretty good impression.
Just sort of laughing at me. Like, again, I'm not in junior high, so it didn't hurt me at that level. It hurt me that he was just like, yeah, I heard you. Yes. Oh, and we can go further. When The Onion, backed by Bloomberg, did the fraudulent auction and got caught in all of that back in November, on November 13th, and I said, we're not leaving. This is a fraud. I'm filing emergency motion. The judge found it to be a fraud. Got a 2-day hearing on all that. Owen just left and just called the producer and said, I'm done. I quit. Even though we have a backup studio, I told everybody, hey, it's going to be fine. We have new backers, all this stuff we get shut down. He's like, I'm gone. Starts announcing, is this the time? Because Infowars being shut down, he thinks. Announce his new network and funding and all this stuff. And then we're back the next day, and Owen just shows back up and does his show and walks in and just looks at me with hatred and like slinks in there, just because he really wanted me to fire him so he could be a victim.
What does that even mean? I'm sorry. It's too funny. What is this? What do you mean when you say slinks in there? Like, what is it?
Back up and does his show and walks in and just looks at me with hatred and like slinks in there, just
What does that mean? Why? Can you guys do that? Can I do it? It doesn't come out great when I do it. I don't know. I'm gonna hear it again. I'm gonna try it.
back up and does his show and walks in and just looks at me with hatred and like slinks in there, just
Let me try that. It doesn't work. I can't do it. is that? Who's walking down the hall and is just like,
because he really wanted me to fire him so he could be a victim. And I confided just in a few of the producers. I said, he wants to be a victim. I said, I'm going to have love and say prayers for him that he gets better. I'll be really nice to him, give him extra bonuses. Maybe he'll pull out of it. I tried to talk to him. He's never wanted to talk to me. And I said, but I said, he's going to stab me in the back. He's a new person. And I don't know if it's his personal life. I don't know if it's stuff he's smoking, but I've seen a lot of people get paranoid, that smoke pot and go nuts. But I mean, I can just tell you this right now, that I'm not here to be shit on or stabbed in the back. This crew isn't your punching bag, and we did nothing to you but be loyal. And your little 5-hour extravaganza of little puppy dog that doesn't know why, and he just wanted to come back and shake my hand and be nice, and then I kind of censored him and said, no, you don't need to host your show. You want to hear what he said in the phone call to me? I didn't record it. I was in the pool with my 8-year-old daughter playing with her Barbie dolls at whatever it was, 4:00 yesterday. A rare.
Yeah, and it stops there. JY said 9 years and did time for him, yet he's selling Alex out. Yeah, it's just, I don't. Oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. If you can work alone, work alone, because I just see a lot of collaborations just fall apart, like over the years. Even like people that are like best friends or besties, and they start working together, and then everything's cool in the beginning, and then like things happen. It's just, what a mess. What a mess. I am going to try to do that though. Oh my God. Margatina said he didn't do time for Alex. Owen had previous charges and shouldn't have been anywhere near January 6th. Yeah, people have mixed opinions about this. There was another one here I wanted to highlight. Miss Ritchie said it was not a joke. And thank you for this, Miss Ritchie. Elon Musk is giving Alex Jones legal assistance. Owen's criticism of Trump, Israel was getting increasingly intense. AJ needs to maintain Elon access. Yeah, it's the whole Elon thing for me. When Elon first took over Twitter, there were some changes with the algorithm and we all noticed it. Like, whoa, hey, we're starting to see accounts that we never see on here, like that type of thing. But then, things changed, as things do when they're corporatized. And especially after Elon made that trip to Israel, they really changed things there with the algorithm. But, the Trump Israel criticism, it rubs some people the wrong way. And it shouldn't. like that's the thing. And this brings up that question again about, like I said, like the people that are corporate media, and then let's just call it alternative media, because with all this stuff going around with dark money, we don't know what's happening. But the corporate media and the alternative media, we are still seeing in the alternative media space people who are not really behaving alternatively. They are following some of the same script that you see for corporate media. So when it comes to the Israel stuff, like if you're in alternative media and you're going to have those same restrictions that corporate media does over Israel, what's the point of being in alternative media? And that's the question I have. That's the question I have. Like, what's the point? And we talked about this earlier when I mentioned it with Taylor, is that we need to really define corporate media. And for me, I always told you guys, for me, independent media, it means that you're not corporate, you're not taking corporate money. I go as far as to say you don't have sponsorships. And some people tell me that's going too far, but I really do believe if you have a paid sponsorship, you're working for that company because they are paying you to sell their product. You're talking to those people. So I always push back on that. And that's why I don't get into all the, so that's why I don't take sponsorships. And, I think people need to let the viewers, if you want to be grassroots, let the viewers be the ones that if they want to donate, let them donate. And that's how I kind of, just go about doing it. But for me, it's like something needs to be said about this, like alternative media behaving like corporate media. I think we need to have another discussion about that at some point in time. So the Israel thing, that is a big one. And, some people are just finding that they have to be tight-lipped around that particular subject if they want to stay where they are. So that just sucks. Now, again, to that response there from Alex Jones, I mean, the way that I kind of see it is just like, he kind of didn't really answer the part about the Israel, though. He mentioned it, but he kind of didn't, Leroy said Sabby would announce she got sponsored, and by the next show, she'd be saying, "See, fam, this is why I don't do sponsors." Yeah, I don't know. I'm telling you, and they contact every week. Every week I get a sponsor offer from somebody, and I'm like, why do these people just leave me alone? Because I know what comes with that. So, oh my gosh. What, Michael? Sabby, other than Breaking Points, is the only one willing to cover how Indonesia-style protests get their demands met. It's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I haven't had a chance to read that story yet, but I can cover that. Talk about it on Sunday. Okay, we got a Rockfin. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roger. I'm sorry, Sab, but this is Alex M.O. Remember 2016 RNC with Jank then door spitting in Alex's mouth? Funny, Jimmy had Cubite supremacist. What is Cubite? Cubite supremacist Fuentes on his show next week. Funny, Jimmy having Cubite. I don't even know what Cubite means. Cubite supremacist Fuentes on his show next week. I don't even know why people even entertain that. Oh, that's supposed to be white? Oh, he put a Q there. QB. He had a QB there. I don't know why people entertain Nick Fuentes. I really don't. I don't get it. Not my take. That is it for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's getting kind of late. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you want to do the mutual aid workshop, look forward for that newsletter from me tomorrow. I'll send it again for those who didn't get a chance to sign up. And also Sunday, I will be live this coming Sunday. I know I missed last Sunday because of the holiday, but I'll be live this coming Sunday. So see you guys then. All right, guys, that is it for me. Have a great weekend. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.